Let's take a moment to think about what really matters in your life. Is it your family, your job, or maybe it's you? It's natural to focus on these things. After all, taking care of yourself and your loved ones and making sure you're doing well at work are all important. But let me ask you this: where does God fit into your list of priorities? Now, if God isn't at the top of that list, you might want to rethink how you're organizing your life. It's a bold statement, but hear me out. When you put God first, something incredible happens. Your life begins to change, and it changes for the better. It's about reevaluating what's really important and making a conscious decision to prioritize God above all. Let's dive into the Bible for a second. In Matthew 22, there's a story where a Pharisee tries to trick Jesus with a question. He asks, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus doesn't miss a beat. He says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment." Jesus couldn't be clearer. We are to put God first in everything we do. It's not just about giving Him a nod on Sunday mornings or a quick prayer before dinner. No, it's about a full commitment, loving God with every part of our being, our hearts, our souls, and our minds. Think about it. If you can truly dedicate every part of yourself to God, you'll find the next part comes a bit easier. Jesus said the second commandment follows naturally from the first, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Loving others isn't always easy, especially when they're the ones making life tough. But when you're filled with God's love, you start to see others differently. Whether it's the classmate who teases you, the cranky old man who yells at you, or even that anonymous person online posting mean comments. With God's perspective, loving them becomes a real possibility. Listen to this. God has already shown us how it's done. 1 John chapter 4 verse 8 says, "Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love." God set the ultimate example by sacrificing His only Son to save us. This act of ultimate love isn't just a historical event. It's the model of love that we are called to follow. What does putting God first really look like? It looks like loving when it's hard. It means smiling and turning the other cheek, offering help instead of reacting in anger, and choosing to pray for those who might not yet know the depth of Christ's love. The more you focus on God, the easier these things become. It's not just about avoiding negative reactions. It's about actively spreading love and kindness in a world that desperately needs it. Just imagine the change that could happen if we all started to live this way. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly does putting God first change my confidence? Let's break it down. When you look at Hebrews chapter 13 verses 5 to 6, it tells us to keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, "Never will I leave you. Never will I forsake you." Think about that for a second. If the Creator of everything says He's not going to leave you hanging, wouldn't you feel more secure? This promise from God is like a rock-solid guarantee. It says, so we say with confidence, "The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me?" Now that's powerful. If you've got the Almighty on your side, really, what's there to be scared of? Other people's doubts or negative comments can't shake you when you know God's got your back. And here's another thing. When you put God first, it's not just about feeling secure, it's about knowing you're never alone. No matter what mess you find yourself in, whether it's trouble at work or maybe personal issues, God is there. When you feel weak, overwhelmed, or downright defeated, remember, He is strong. And that strength is for you too. You see, the world often pushes us to find confidence within ourselves, like it's something we can manufacture on our own. But that's not the whole picture. True self-confidence has deeper roots, spiritual roots. It comes from knowing that you were created by God, and He is guiding you every step of the way. You can face anything, not because you're so great on your own, but because He's great and He's with you. Now, let's talk about contentment, which is another huge thing. In Philippians chapter 4, verses 12 to 13, Paul shares something pretty amazing. He says, "I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength." Paul wasn't just talking, he lived this out. Life is full of ups and downs. We all know that. You might have days when everything's going great, and then, out of nowhere, things take a nosedive. You could lose your job, face health issues, or deal with a loss in the family. It's tough, no doubt, but here's where putting God first makes all the difference. Paul went through some really hard times, imprisonment, exile, you name it, but he stayed content. Why? Because his contentment was rooted in his trust in the Lord, not his circumstances. He put God first and everything else second, including his own comfort and safety. He was willing to sacrifice everything, trusting that God's plan was in play even if he didn't understand it. That same trust is available to you. When you face challenges and it seems like everything is falling apart, you can lean on the Lord. He's got you. You can remain content and confident not because you're ignoring reality, but because you know who controls reality. God is at the helm, and He's steering your life. Why not give it a try? Start today. Put God at the center of your life. Watch how your perspective on confidence and contentment changes. With God first, the confidence you'll feel won't just be about overcoming a tough day. It'll be about knowing you're part of a bigger plan with the greatest helper by your side. It's a game changer, truly. Listen to this. Imagine being so sure about something that you're willing to face a fiery furnace for it. That's exactly what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did. They had such a strong faith in God that even the threat of being burned alive didn't shake them. They told King Nebuchadnezzar straight up, "Our God can save us from the blazing furnace and from your power. But even if He doesn't, we won't worship your gods." Their story isn't just old history. It's a powerful reminder of what it looks like to really put God first. They didn't know for sure what would happen. They could have ended up as ashes. Yet, they trusted God so deeply that they were willing to risk it all. That's the kind of courage and fearlessness you get when you make God your number one. Now, you might be thinking, that's great for them, but I'm not facing any fiery furnaces. True, but we all face our own kinds of challenges, right? Maybe it's a tough decision at work, a rough patch in a relationship, or a personal struggle no one else knows about. In those moments, putting God first can give you the strength to keep going. It's about believing he's with you, just like he was with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And here's the best part. When they stepped out of that furnace, not a hair on their heads was singed. They didn't even smell like smoke. That's the kind of protection and care God promises when you trust him fully. King Nebuchadnezzar was so amazed by what he saw that he ended up praising their God, declaring that no other God could save like that. So, not only were they saved, but their trust in God also led to a powerful witness to others. Imagine that your faith could encourage someone else to look up and give God a chance. This story sets the stage for a broader point about life's ups and downs. Life isn't always smooth sailing. You'll have good days and bad days. Sometimes you'll feel on top of the world, and other times you might wonder how you'll get through the next hour. But remember, just like Paul said in Philippians 4, verse 13, I can do all this through him who gives me strength. That's the secret to contentment and courage, knowing that whatever happens, you have divine strength on your side. Putting God first changes your perspective on everything. When he's your top priority, even the biggest problems seem manageable because you're not handling them alone. You've got the best possible helper. And it's not just about getting through tough times. It's about experiencing a deep, lasting joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. So, what does it look like to put God first? It starts with daily decisions. Choose to spend time in prayer, read the Bible, and really listen for God's voice. When you make a decision, ask yourself, is this pleasing to God? It's about aligning your life with his will and trusting that he knows what's best for you. And if you slip up, don't beat yourself up. God's not looking for perfection. He's looking for persistence. Keep turning to him. Keep putting him first, and he'll guide your steps. Remember, it's a journey. Each day is a new chance to trust God more. Take a moment today to think about your priorities. Are there areas of your life where God has taken a back seat? It's never too late to shift your focus. Start today and watch how your life begins to change. With God first, you'll find the courage to face your own furnaces, and you'll discover a joy and peace that nothing in this world can match.